We could be about to witness the beginning of the entire AI complex collapsing. And guess what? OpenAI is right at the middle of this. This will affect all of us. And what I'm going to do here is break this down. Of course, this affects us due to things like hardware prices rising, memory prices rising, GPU prices rising, electricity prices rising. The list goes on and on and on. All of this is underpinned by constant investment into OpenAI. And if they were to fail for whatever reason, it would take down some of the biggest companies on the planet and absolutely annihilate the economy. So this, of course, matters to all of us. And when I say the economy, I mean the global economy. Let's take a look at what Sam Altman has been saying. We love working with Nvidia, and they make the best AI chips in the world. We hope to be a gigantic customer for a very long time. I don't get where all this insanity is coming from. Well, I'll tell you where all this is coming from. It's coming from what looks like a bit of a family feud between Nvidia and OpenAI. Nvidia, behind closed doors, potentially not being very, let's say, happy, and that's a very generous way of explaining this, with the management of OpenAI and the way the company works. And then in public interviews and questions that were actually asked of Jensen, of course, the Nvidia CEO, he's saying, no, we didn't agree to a $100 billion investment. We were invited to invest up to $100 billion, and we'll do it in various stages. All this is very confusing, isn't it? So what the hell's going on? This is where the majority of this comes from to begin with. And I've actually got some really good stuff to show you here. We've got people from OpenAI talking as well. And we've got Jensen. We've got loads of stuff, right? So this drops on Reuters, and it says OpenAI is unsatisfied with some NVIDIA chips and is looking for alternative sources say. Now, what alternatives could they be looking for? Don't worry, we're not going to read this whole article. It is massive. But I just want to take this first kind of section because it sort of sums it up. So OpenAI is unsatisfied with some of NVIDIA's latest artificial intelligence chips and has sought alternatives since last year. 8 sources familiar with the matter said, potentially complicating the relationship between the two highest profile players in the AI boom. The ChatGPT maker's shifting strategy, the details of which are first reported here, is an over-increasing emphasis on chips used to perform specific elements of AI inference, the process where an AI model, such as the one that powers ChatGPT, responds to customer queries and requests. Nvidia remains dominant in the chips for training large AI models, while inference has become a new front in the competition. Right, so let me explain what this means. When you've got AI and you want to make a model, you need to train the model. So generally, you want the fastest GPUs to do that. This is because of the way GPUs function. They can handle large amounts of data. And basically, I think it's something to do with like sequential calculations that they can do. So they can do loads of calculations at the same time, basically, right? So GPUs are really good for that. Nvidia makes the best GPUs. Now, they consume a shitload of power, a shitload of everything else, tons of resources, and it takes them months and months to come up with these models. So the models are trained and produced. Then you've got a model. So you've done this on Nvidia's hardware. Now, the reason why everyone flocks to Nvidia hardware to do this is because it's the fastest. If you use other hardware, again, these are numbers I'm literally pulling out of my arse, but think of it this way. If it takes you 6 months to do it on Nvidia hardware, it might take you 8 months to do it on somebody else's hardware. Those 2 months are critical because you need your latest model to come out because that's how you're generating revenue. But then the other element to this whole AI issue is once the model is made, the model then needs to run, and that's inference in a way. So what that means is when you ask it a question, ChatGPT, or use any kind of model, the model runs, gives you an answer. That process is inference. Now, you can do this on GPUs, and they're quite good for it. The problem is they're very expensive to run. So what's been happening in the AI industry is a push towards inference chips, which are lower cost chips to produce and much, much lower cost chips to run. Because you think about it, these AI models are getting billions and billions of requests, like probably per hour, easily, right? Especially the biggest ones, probably more than that, actually. And they're having to do stuff, right? And they want to do each one of those inference processes as cheap as possible. So it would make sense, wouldn't it, that OpenAI would be looking for those kind of chips? Well, take a look at this. So clearly NVIDIA knew this because if you look at this, back in December, they bought Grok. Now, this isn't Grok on bloody AI, whatever the hell it's called, Twitter. This is Grok, the company that makes inference chips. Nvidia's just straight basically bought them. Now it turns out they haven't actually straight bought the company, although they basically have. They've sort of got into an agreement for 20 billion to just take all of the staff from the company. So it basically is Nvidia's company, right? This must have been a reaction to whatever the hell was going on with OpenAI moaning about the cost being too high for Nvidia's GPUs being used in inference. Right then, listen to this, because this is Jensen being interviewed And look, he looks really pissed off to me here, right? So the wobbles are coming, right? The wobbles are coming. Check this out.
Can I ask quickly about OpenAI again?
Sure.
So yesterday you said that Nvidia is not going to invest as much as 100 billion in OpenAI.
No,
is that for the current run?
we never said we were going to invest $100 billion in one round. That never was said.
But
Yeah.
how about the
Yeah.
overall commitment? Because last September you and OpenAI
There was never a commitment. It was if they invited us to. So let's start over again. They invited us to invest up to $100 billion, and of course we were very happy and honored that they invited us. But we will invest one step at a time.
All right, but is that overall commitment still stands, or it's not
No,
a commitment?
I told you just now. Okay. Yeah, you keep putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
It's not.
Sorry about
yeah, I know that. Yeah. They invited us to invest up to $100 billion.
Okay, so you can see Jensen is like, no, we haven't given them 100 billion. They've invited us to invest up to 100 billion. Now, the reason why this matters is OpenAI has got absolutely massive commitments, like crazed amounts of money. I think it's over $1 trillion, right? So much stupid, where they're going to build like tons of data centers. But OpenAI doesn't make any money. Well, it does make money, but it doesn't make enough money to pay for all of this. So it needs investors. And everyone was kind of assuming that they had 100 billion off Nvidia. But then now Nvidia are saying, well, no, we're going to give it you, but not straight away. And we're going to do it in various rounds if we want to do it. And are they really going to give them 100 billion? Now, this made me laugh, because don't worry, because Jensen's got us covered.
And this year is the year of the horse. So it's going to be a very good year.
Yeah, so it's the year of the horse. Don't worry about it. Everything's going to be fine. Right then, so this is Sachin Katti. Now, he is the compute scaling lead boss man at OpenAI. So he's very high up with OpenAI. He's dropped a massive post here, so we'll go through this quickly. And he says this: our partnership with Nvidia is foundational. Nvidia is our most important partner for both training and inference, and our entire compute fleet runs on Nvidia GPUs. This is not a vendor relationship. It is deep, ongoing co-design. We build systems together, and our frontier models are the product of multi-year hardware and model engineering done side by side. We scaled available compute from 0.2 gigawatts in 23 to 0.6 in 24 to 1.9 in 25. And that pace is accelerating. Inference demand is growing exponentially with more users, more agents, and more always-on workloads. Nvidia continues to set the bar for performance, efficiency, and reliability in both training and inference. The demand curve is unmistakable. The world needs orders of magnitude more compute. This is why we are anchoring on Nvidia as the core of our training and inference stack, while deliberately expanding the ecosystem around it through partnerships with Cerebras, AMD, and Broadcom. They're all chip manufacturers, and they make inference chips as well. This approach lets us move faster, deploy more broadly, and support the explosion of real-world use cases without sacrificing performance or reliability. The outcome is simple and durable infrastructure that can carry frontier capability all the way into production at a global scale. Right, then, so this is clearly damage control, right? If there's a rift that's seen between Nvidia and OpenAI, it could have massive ramifications through the entire market. So clearly they're trying to patch this up from both sides. But let's just take a look at their share price at the moment. So this is Nvidia, right? They're down 3.3% today on this news. Now, when your company's worth trillions, right, this is a massive drop in market share, in capital. Well, maybe not in market share as such, but in capital, it's a big drop of the value of your company. This isn't good news, and this is simply because of this little spat going back and forth. Because again, the issue becomes, can OpenAI actually afford all of the data centers it's building? Because remember, the connection here is each data center that's getting built, it's actually putting tons of Nvidia GPUs and Nvidia infrastructure and hardware into that, which is worth billions and billions. This is why Nvidia makes crazed amounts of money every quarter, because everyone who wants really fast AI training, and then obviously fast inference and all that stuff related to it, they're having to buy off Nvidia. So if that ever stops and slows down, then there's going to be a big problem for everyone. So talking of big problems for everyone, this isn't just as simple as OpenAI and Nvidia, because look at what's happening with Oracle. This is mental. So this tweet, this tweet is probably one of those tweets that has cost your business billions. It's one of the most expensive tweets that's probably been made. Look at what they've said. The Nvidia OpenAI deal has zero impact on our financial relationship with OpenAI. We remain highly confident in OpenAI's ability to raise funds and meet its commitments. Now, I'm not being funny, but to me, that reads like, if they're going down, we're not going down. Don't worry, guys, everything's fine. That is a bonkers statement, and I don't know why they made that. They would have been better off saying nothing at all. But clearly, there are ripples here. There are problems behind the scenes. And so talking of problems behind the scenes, Oracle don't really have the money to invest in OpenAI to the levels they've actually committed to invest. So this is forcing them to do things to try and generate as much money as they can to actually keep the money going into OpenAI. Because remember, if they default on this, they're going to get hammered. And not just them, everyone's going to get hammered because it's going to be seen as, well, this is an integral part of investment that was required for OpenAI. Now, there are questions, and I will show you that in a second, where OpenAI have gone to places like the Middle East. They've gone to even Amazon and even back to Nvidia and other companies to try and get even more money. And so if something like an Oracle does go under or can't fulfill this or pulls out of the deal, then it can be kind of patched up. But at the moment, if these guys pull out, there's a big problem for OpenAI. So this here, as you can see, Oracle amps up its AI bet with a plan to raise as much as $50 billion this year. So after issuing an $18 billion bond offering last fall, Oracle intends to tap the debt and equity markets anew in 2026. Now, this is, of course, not a particularly great sign if they're looking to get this much money. Because remember, when you look at these companies and you look at companies like Amazon or you look at companies like Google, I mean, Google, they have got their own sort of complete AI full stack system. They don't really rely on other companies. But the point I'm trying to make here is your Googles, your Amazons of this world, they generate billions a year anyway. Even Microsoft does, right? So they can afford to prop up the costs themselves. They don't have to go out into the markets and try and find debt or fire loads of people, although those companies still do fire loads of people. So yeah, it's a bit of a mess. But guess what? This is literally breaking news. So Oracle are back and they say, we may slash 30,000 jobs amid AI data center funding challenge. So this is not great. This is obviously, again, an attempt to try and raise more money through cutting back everything else and just going like literally betting the house, the farm, the car, everything on AI, which is crazy, right, when you think about it. So, I mean, the quote is this: the company's ability to finance its infrastructure projects, estimated to require $156 billion in capital expenditure, has been hindered by reducing lending involvement from several US banks. So to counter this, they're obviously attempting to, or thinking of, doing this. You can see they're contemplating substantial job cuts, potentially eliminating between 20 and 30,000 positions as it grapples with challenges in securing funding for its artificial intelligence AI data centers like that. Oh dear. So let's talk about where this funding could possibly come from for OpenAI. Now, SoftBank are already investing or have pledged to invest crazy amounts of money into OpenAI, and they're coming back and they're now saying, this is from the 28th of January, they're now in talks again to invest another $30 billion into OpenAI. So this is the beginning of the play from OpenAI to go, no, we need more money and we've got to try and secure it from maybe sources that are a little bit more viable, although again, that's completely subjective with SoftBank and their financial situation, because I mean that can get really messy as well. But this, I think, is attempting to patch up the gaps that maybe could be caused by an Oracle having problems. But even that being said, if Oracle actually manages the investment, SoftBank gives OpenAI the investment, they're still falling short and they still need more money or they will go bankrupt. So then we look at things like this. Amazon are in talks to invest up to $50 billion in OpenAI. That again is crazy. So this could be what's causing a lot of the problems, I think, with the likes of Nvidia and OpenAI. OpenAI are having to get into bed with Nvidia's competitors, and that must be pissing Nvidia off because they're obviously not able to provide them with all of the investment that they require. So when you've got Amazon and you've got, you know, your SoftBanks of the world, your Oracles of your world, and all these different companies looking to invest into OpenAI, but Nvidia are also investing into OpenAI, you can see where this might cause a bit of confrontation between them. But again, this is pretty crazy because when you think about it, Amazon, I mean, they have got their own AI systems, their own AI chips. Amazon have got inference chips as well. So could there be some sort of thing here where, I don't know, maybe OpenAI start using their chips as well? It's very messy, this is. Also, don't forget this as well. So Sam Altman of OpenAI fame was in the Middle East in January, and he was trying to secure funding. You guys can see the title there. He's looking for around 50 billion. I think these estimates have gone up to like 65 billion plus, which would be the single biggest investment round ever in history. And then when you start adding all of this together, the numbers start to get pretty mental. Right then, so that's the situation for us at the moment. We're looking at a sort of scenario right now where OpenAI is struggling to secure the funding required to keep it going for the next couple of years. And what it wants to do is build tons of data centers, which is basically tons of compute, which means buying shitloads off Nvidia and maybe other partners as well, maybe bits off Amazon, Broadcom, all these other companies, AMD, just to keep their compute power going, and then hoping to sell subscriptions to you so you use ChatGPT and adverts in ChatGPT, and then sell enterprise level ChatGPT subscriptions and all to their various things like their coding assistant, is it called Codex, whatever the hell it's called, right? And that's the way they're going to try and generate their money. But the problem is they don't have the firepower ready to do this, and they need investment because they don't make enough money themselves to do it. So what's happened is you've got a situation where your Nvidias of this world are investing heavily into OpenAI, who is then buying all of the gear off Nvidia. So it's in Nvidia's interest to keep OpenAI alive, because if they go down, Nvidia loses quite a lot of revenue because it's not getting all these billions in GPU sales, and it becomes a problem. And that could be one of the first dominoes that starts to go down. Now, OpenAI, it must be said, are still the leader when it comes to AI, when it comes to the amount of users on their platform. They're bigger than Gemini, they're bigger than any other platform out there that's AI related. But this is declining as other systems are getting more interesting, faster, cheaper to run, and things like that. So there is a problem. Now, there is another side to this story, and it could simply be this. Not every business is going to work. This happened in the dot-com boom. Not every company with a website was successful. We know the companies that were successful from that, and they're still successful today. So there is a world where maybe your OpenAI goes under. You know, I was thinking about this. Like, where does the world break down in terms of, like, let's say your consumer grade AI? Maybe that's Google's world, and maybe that's what Google ends up taking over, and people are using the Google AI model, right? Google's got most of your private information anyway, as crazy as this sounds. It'll have your Google Photos, your Gmail, you know, a lot of people are using all these systems. It knows about you, right? ChatGPT, not so much. So maybe they lose that audience over time. Then when you look at like the sort of hardcore audience, the nerdier audience, I suppose you could call them, the engineers, let's say, people who are using it for code assistance and stuff like that. Maybe they're using Anthropic stuff like Claude Code. So what's left for OpenAI? Maybe they are the company that does end up going under. Or, of course, they could be the company that actually comes out on top. We don't know. Now, again, the problem for us is all of this is impacting everything around. You know, you can see on this screen here that what the device you're watching, well, I was basically saying all the stuff around me, right? But the device you're watching this on, whether it's your PC, your games console, your phone, they are going to get a lot more expensive because AI build out, which is ultimately driven by OpenAI, and then obviously all these other hyperscalers, the big companies out there that are investing in building data centers, they need more memory. So that means memory prices go up for us because it's worth more to the companies to sell to these hyperscalers. It means companies like Micron stop actually producing consumer RAM. They don't make that anymore. It is not worth it. They have changed their production, so it's probably incapable of them, or they're incapable of actually even making any of that anymore, which is a problem, because if more companies convert to that way of thinking, how are we going to get any sort of hardware in our house? And this leads into things like what Jeff Bezos was saying, that he basically wants everyone to have cloud compute. You want to rent your computer off us in the cloud. I mean, that would be tragic on every level. But we're starting to see this, right? GPUs are massively more expensive now because Nvidia, well, they're selling GPUs to the hyperscalers, not to me and you. And the ones they do sell to me and you are massively expensive. They're also stopping production of certain models as well because it's not worth the time of day to make them. They need those production slots, I guess, to make their AI chips. This is a problem. Then what about storage? What about flash memory? What about, you know, M2 memory, all of this stuff? You know, you want fancy flash drives, forget it, because they're miles more expensive. What about RAM? RAM has been the one, like I said, which has taken the biggest price increase. The prices have got outrageous with RAM. And is this going to change? Not in any time soon. So all of this directly affects us. And where this is going, it still is unclear who's going to come out on top, if all this investment is actually going to be worth it. But the fact of the matter is right now, we are all suffering because things are getting more expensive, and it is not an ideal situation to be in. And of course, these companies are getting so big now, so much investment being thrown around. if they start struggling, it is going to hammer the economy, and that's going to affect us in all kinds of different ways, not just related to stuff in the tech sector. Everything will get blasted. It will be bad. So I don't know. I'm really frightened. The more I read into this stuff, it is genuinely frightening, because it's like such a mad gamble that they're playing with everything, literally everything. All right, guys, I've been Stylosa. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And you can follow me on everything, which is at Stylosa. And again, thanks for the support on recent videos as well. You guys are awesome. And like I said, if you do really enjoy the video, do like it and subscribe. That helps a ton. And yeah, leave a comment below, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. See you soon.